Welcome back to Leveraging Leadership, where we unpack the art of business leadership. I'm your host, Emily Sander, Chief of Staff turned Executive Leadership Coach. This show is all about finding your points of greatest influence and leveraging them to better serve those around you. All right, it is listener question day, which is becoming my favorite days. So here is the listener question we just got in from Angela. And she says, "Hi, Emily, big fan of the show. I have a question about navigating leadership dynamics in high stakes meetings. My boss is incredibly smart and genuinely believes in empowering others. She talks a lot about wanting people to step up, make decisions, and own their work. But when we get into big planning meetings, especially the on site ones, she tends to hijack the room. She'll kick things off and then keep going. And before you know it, no one else has said much. We've talked about it. She knows she does this in all caps, and she really, in all caps, does want to change. But when she senses things aren't moving fast enough or going her way, she slides right back into it. We've got some big on site planning meetings coming up this year, and I want to make sure people feel heard and feel confident speaking up. How do I set the tone or structure the meeting so it doesn't get dominated and people don't check out just because she's in the room?" Okay, and then Angela signs off here. "Angela, Chief of Staff at mid-sized company that's scaling pretty fast." Love it. Okay, so Angela, great question. I got you. The theme you want to convey to your boss is that of listening. You want her to listen, and that is her primary focus for this onsite. And there's kind of three phases of how you're going to convey this to her: before the event, during the event, and after the event. So before the event, it's basically front running this conversation. And it sounds like you're going to be able to tag on to an ongoing conversation about this in general. She knows this is going on. She knows she does this, and she really does want to get better, which is fantastic, which is great. And so going into it, you might give her a prompt. And the prompt could be something like, "What did you learn? What did you learn in this session? What did you learn after day one? After the whole thing is done, I'm going to ask you, what did you learn?" And that's going to be your prompt and your cue. To learn things, you have to listen. You have to ask good questions and you have to be present and be engaging and all those things, but you have to listen. And so inherent in that prompt, in that question you give her, is she's going to have to spend a lot of time, or at least some of the time, listening. During the planning on site, you're probably going to have to remind her, because if she easily slides back into her old habits, there's going to be moments where she's going to get tempted to do that. So it might be little check-ins, during breaks or during lunch or after day one, where again, you remind her of the intention going in. And that could be things like, "What did you hear the team say about X, Y, and Z?" And you can pick a topic that you two agree upon ahead of time is really important for you both to get a handle on and to hear from people about. And we really want to get a pulse on this thing, or we want to check in on how people are doing with this, and this project, this personnel change, this announcement, all this stuff. What did you hear people say about that? Again, you have to listen. You can't do all the talking if you're going to answer that question. So you might nudge her during the onsite with questions like that. Like, "Hey, what did you hear people say about X, Y, and Z?" And just make it casual. You don't need to make it like boom, 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 now we're checking in. Or if your principal responds well to that, have a pre-planned check-in at lunch or end of day. Like, "I'm going to ask you these questions." And so she knows they're coming. Afterwards, so it depends on how it goes, right? Let's say it goes swimmingly well and everything's like, "Oh my gosh," like she sat back, she asked questions, and then she listened and she answered my questions and the prompts throughout. This is like a watershed moment. Holy cow. That's the ideal situation, right? If that happens, then I would tie it back to what she wants, which is truly caring about empowering others and wanting people to step up and take ownership and responsibility. And you can say something like, "So and so boss's name." That's what that looks like. That's what that looks like when people are allowed to step up. And you saw how they went back and forth, and we came up as a team with that great idea. And now we're going to go action that. And everyone's excited and bought into this thing. That's what it looks like. You allowed that to happen by listening and by asking those good questions and by motivating people and nudging people along the way on kind of the outskirts, but letting them do the main thing. You made that happen. And that's what that looks like. That's what we get when that happens. Something like that. If it went the other way, then you have a different conversation, but I would have kind of a recap moment and a check-in with her after the onsite. This is a coaching moment for your principal as well. All right, so we've got the main theme of listening, and we're going to convey that to her before, during, and after the onsite. Here are some tactical and practical things that might apply to you, you might try out here. I'm not exactly sure how you're structuring your onsite. There's dozens of ways to do that, but you might structure some of the sessions in a way where she's not really allowed to take over. And what I mean by that is, let's say there is a session that you're leading, let's say that you're facilitating. So you're teeing up the main topic or the discussion points or how this thing is going to run. Oftentimes there's little breakout groups. So you have a big, larger group team discussion. And maybe you're up at the board doing whiteboarding, or you're showing some slides, or you're explaining this and facilitating this. And then you say, okay, let's get in groups of like 3 to 4, you guys over here, you guys over there, and you guys are going to be the third group over here. Talk about this topic amongst yourselves. Answer these 3 questions. Take, 10 minutes to do that amongst your little groups. And then have one person do a quick recap and summary for your group. So even if your boss is the one who is the messenger and is the person recapping for that little breakout group, she's only one of 3. And you might even assign the person who's going to do the recap where it's not her. So she can discuss it in a little group, and that's fine and that's good, but she's not the one speaking to the larger group. So the exercise in that session is just set up in a way where she can't easily dominate that conversation. A second one I've seen might be if someone is standing up there and they're taking point on this part of the conversation, and you make it clear, like let's say it's Joe, like an executive on the team, like Joe is going to take us through this part of the onsite, and we're going to talk about this topic we need a decision on by the group, and it's Joe's call. Joe is the head of the team that has to do the bulk of the work on this or deliver on this, or it just makes sense for Joe to be the decision maker. So everyone can provide input, but at the end of the day, Joe is going to make it. And part of why we're doing this is so we're all together. We're all in person. We're not doing this by emails and back and forth. We're all together. We're all hearing the same things. We're all able to provide input. But look, at the end of the day, it's Joe's call. And so we want Joe to be transparent about how and why he's making this decision, but it's Joe's call. And then have your boss be one of the people who might provide input to that and their perspective, but everyone provides input and then it's Joe's call. And getting the team and Joe and your boss used to the fact that boss might provide input, but the ultimate decision is someone else's. And so framing it up and structuring it that way can help people get into I guess she's saying something and I'm going to say something, but Joe is making the call. So you can do it that way. There's little tiny things you can play around with like the order that you ask people. If you're doing a round robin for people's, yay, nay, or like give your 2-minute response to this question, the order in which you call on people, for lack of better phrase, can go into it. So maybe starting with the boss and saying like 2 minutes max, everyone's going to go around the table, but having her not have the last say and having it for a certain distinct amount of time for everyone can help that as well. So if it's so bad that you have to get her out of the room physically, there are ways to structure that and do that. Hopefully it's not that bad. It sounds like she wants to get better at this. And so she's going to be at least attuned to trying to get better. Hopefully you can tee this up too, as this is a huge opportunity for you. This is a huge practice session for you. This is where you get to showcase how you truly mean what you say. When you tell the team, I'm all about empowering you. When you tell the team, I need you and want you to step up, and I'm actually going to need you to do that so I can lift out to other things. This could be the catalyst moment for you where people go, oh my gosh, like ever since that one onsite, that planning meeting, she actually started to change. Like she's actually letting go of the reins a little bit. If that's the message, if that's the takeaway people have coming out of that onsite, wouldn't that be a positive thing? Wouldn't that be something to go after? Let's make that happen. So that might be in like the front run conversation and then checking in throughout and then afterward doing the recap. So anyway, you've got the thematic listen, listen, listen. What did you learn? What did you hear people say about X, Y, and Z? And then some of these tactical and practical pieces in there as well. All right. And with that, Angela, I hope that some of this has been helpful for you. And I hope that you have a very successful on site planning meeting. Thank you so much for listening. And thank you so much for sending in a listener question. And if any other listeners want to send in a question, then please feel free to email me at emily@nextlevel.coach. And I would be happy to answer your question as best I can in an upcoming episode. Otherwise, I will catch you next week on Leveraging Leadership.
If you enjoyed today's episode, please like, share, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.